Next on the list is Stalin and the program of industrialization. So we've looked at the collectivization of the farms, these super farms. I use the word in the intro for YouTube. It's kolkhozy. Um, so he's created these kolkhozy, these super farms. Needs workers, but also Stalin accepted that his challenge in the USSR, Union Soviet Socialist Republics, was to modernize massively and fast. Stalin stated that his country was up to 150 years behind the West, right? And by the West, he means Britain, America, Germany, the countries that he considered to be his rivals, and add to that, they are also his ideological rivals, that they have a hatred of communism and a hatred born out of fear. So I'll get a little bit conceptual here and say that ultimately communism is directly opposed to capitalism. Capitalism is about exploiting the workers, paying them as little as you can, so the business owners, the industrialists, take as much profit as they can possibly get away with. Communism is the opposite of that, the antithesis of that. So Stalin understands that these other countries want the USSR destroyed. They're a threat. They can't, in his view, coexist together. Now, he's had his little battle with Trotsky because Trotsky believed that the internationalism of communism should unite workers all around the world. Stalin was much more about localism. He wants to get Russia Stalinist, communist, industrialized, fast, so that it can sort of stand up for itself and defend itself, because he recognized that eventually there would be an imminent invasion. He reckoned it would be from Germany, and Hitler didn't really hide his intentions. Hitler said that Stalin and Russia to the east was where he wanted to expand. Hitler was clever because he didn't think Britain and America would do anything about this, so he thought he would have a free hand to have a good old go at Stalin, almost with the approval of the other countries. Anyway, I'm digressing now. So industrialization has to make twofolds happen. Firstly, the process is to make the farming work. So the factories initially were coordinated to make things like farm machinery, tractors, things like the workers on these big farms would need in order to make massive amounts of produce. Massive amounts of produce meant the Russian workers would be fed. It would also mean that Stalin could send overseas any surpluses. So farm produce and farm machinery, Russia thought, could be exported, and that would be great because Russia could then earn money from overseas to spend on its communization program. That was the plan. It seemed to be sensible. So in these industrial megacities, and they were megacities of their day, there's the creation of factories, there's the creation of places where these millions and millions of ex-peasant farm workers would move into and live in these new apartment blocks that would have facilities for nurseries, they would have education, they'd have universities, they would have everything that a city needed for the people to move into. So they were placed all around Russia, and if they were located near to whatever resources they needed, so it could be coal mines, it could be steel, iron ore deposits, it could be near the mountains, for anything that Russia was likely to use for that particular industry. Stalin located it sensibly and built railroads between the cities, and roads and ports and everything that was necessary for long-term planning. So the industrialization process was split into a series of 5-year plans. Each plan had a target, and it was focused upon, and any failure to meet targets were met with pretty heavy repercussions, usually violent, because that's what Stalin did. And then workers who particularly demonstrated massive amounts of success. There's one called Stakhanov, who mined like no other Russian miner could mine. He was held up as an inspiration to his colleagues. Why did he do it? Not for money, just for the country. It was for the glory of communism, the glory of Stalin. That's how Russia was working these days. It was a great propaganda machine for communism. So these 5-year plans, unsurprisingly, were massively successful. How do we know that? Because Stalinist propaganda tells us they were. Whether they were or not, we could debate till the cows come home, but they probably wouldn't, because they were on the farms getting slaughtered to feed the workers. So these industrial cities, if we measure their success, we do it in a really simple way. By 1940 odd, 41, 42, when the Nazi Germans invaded, Russia can withstand that invasion. They don't get taken over. That means that the factories were successful, not just in making industrial goods, but also making military targets as well. So tanks and guns and bombs and all the stuff that they would have needed for the Red Army to defeat the Nazi army, which was what happened in World War II. So the industrialization process is a major success for Stalin, because it means that the Russians in World War II do not collapse and die. And his warning, like I said at the start, that they were 150 years behind and therefore an easy target. No longer were they 150 years behind. They were the equal of the West, if not in some cases better. And this goes on into the 1950s with things like the space program. So Russia, of course, on the back of the technology of industrialization, is able to overtake the USA in its space program and put the first, for what it's worth, I think it was a dog, monkey, geez, sorry, monkey into space. So the Russian industrialization program, massively successful, albeit with a bunch of lies. In terms of sources, have a look at the statistics, have a look at the propaganda posters. That's what you'll be needing if you decide to focus your research on this topic. There's lots of it, and again, obviously, the book that you've got. All right, I hope that helped. Any questions, just see me in class 7:15. Sorry.